everybody.
Hi.
Okay. My name is Thelma, and I was born in Zimbabwe. I come from what many people would call a very poor family. Like, so poor, it's not even funny. I grew up in a very tough life, but that inspired me to keep going and become the person I am. I used to walk 8 kilometers to school every day, and then 8 kilometers back. So I would walk 8 kilometers to that school, which had 7 classrooms and 700 students and 3 toilets for the boys and 3 toilets for the girls. So you did not want to have diarrhea on the day because you would be waiting a long time. So along the way, my father was working for the government in agriculture, and there was an American guy who was doing this project called Citizens Network, and there were American farmers, and they would come and teach Zimbabwean subsistence farmers organizational methods. So he met my family and just fell in love with the family and said, "I love your children," to my dad. He said, "You've looked after me, you know, your wife, you know, washes my clothes, cooks for me, does everything. So in return, I would like to help by sending your kids to school." So then my life transformed. I moved from walking 16 kilometers a day to and from school, and I went to super private boarding schools. Then the economic collapse happened in Zimbabwe. I know Darwin has millionaires, but I'm one of the few people in the world who has had a chance to be a billionaire for 3 eggs. So, you know, like I remember one year I was going to school, I was going to pay my fees, and I think that time my fees was $113 trillion or something. And I carried my school fees in a cricket bag, got on a bus, you know, traveled 200 kilometers to my school to pay for my fees. And that little boy in the picture, he's probably going to the corner store to buy a pie or something. And then when he got to the corner store, that's what he found. So I finished my high school, and my American sponsor parents said, "What would you like to do?" And at that stage, I knew I came from a poor family and I didn't have any high hopes. So I said, "Oh no, I think I'm done." And they said, "No, you can keep going with your life. What would you like to do?" And I said, "Oh, you know, I got a chance to give a speech. This lady came advertising Australian universities, and I got a chance to give the thank you speech." And they said, "Would you like to go to Australia?" And I said, no, my father is too poor, can't even afford that. And they said, "Well, if you can get yourself in, we'll pay for everything. Your flights, your international student fees, and everything." So before I knew it, I was at the airport hugging and crying, and my dad reached into his pocket and said, "I'm going to give you all I have, and this is the pocket money that I'm giving you." I came to Australia with $100 trillion, and it was all in one note. So I started my Bachelor of Social Science at the University of New England. I actually didn't choose this degree. This lady who was helping students come to Australia said, "You look like you'll be good with social science, you got a great personality." I'm like, "Okay, I'll do it." So yeah, I started studying at the University of New England, and that's where I met my husband. And you know, considering I came from a country with quite a culture of white supremacy, having a white man take me on a date was something that was really freaky at that time. And never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I would be standing in front of this many white people sharing my story. So I feel very honored. I hope you do too. So when I finished my degree in 2008, in 2011 I graduated, and Amido had many university student jobs, but not many jobs in terms of career-style jobs. And during the duration of my studies, I had always gone online and looked up Darwin. And there seemed to be something, I hadn't been to Darwin, and I just fell in love with the name, because there's a place in Zimbabwe called Mount Darwin. So I sort of fell in love with the place, and I said, okay, I'll give it a go. And sorry, James, but we're living with my mother-in-law at that stage. And she's got a big house, and I was like, "Thank you, mother-in-law, thank you for your big house. I'm out. I'm going to Darwin." So I came to Darwin, and I got a job. I applied for, in Amido, it was really hard to get a job. So I applied for this job, And after I had sort of got in, I realized that it was working somewhere, which is very political. And here was my job. I got a job in the immigration detention centers. And at that stage, it didn't really hit me that it was quite a political hot potato. And I got to work on the first day. I was given a radio, I was given a Hoffman knife, I was given all these things, and it was just ridiculous. And I got in there, and I hadn't been exposed much to people from the Middle East and that culture. So when I got in there, I had already had fear instilled in me, and I was quite scared. So I went to work every day, and it was mainly safety and security. But over time, I dropped the officer. The officer in me sort of really left and took off, and I started dealing with human beings. I dropped the politics. I dropped the news, I dropped the headlines, and I dropped everything, and I saw another human being who was in need at that stage. So every day I went to work, I went to deal with human beings. And my favorite is the quote from the Dalai Lama: "Our prime purpose in this life is to help others, and if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them." And my life went on, and I noticed that a lot of people were depressed, and the fear of the unknown was the biggest issue. So one day, I realized that I had an Amazon gift voucher that I had received as a present from my sponsor parents. So, not like Amazon being very small in Australia but big in America, so I ordered my Zumba DVDs from Amazon. And I brought them, they sat on the TV stand for a while and gathered a bit of dust, and my husband started nagging me, and I said, okay, fine. So I took them to the detention center, and I said, hey, you are sad, come let's dance. So all these ladies said, oh, officer, invite, dance party. Okay, we'll come. So they came with makeup, and they were all dressed up and high heels. And I said, no. Strip everything, and we're just going to dance. So we covered up the windows and turned everything into a big dance party. And it was amazing just to see people walk in there, very sad, take everything off, and just let loose and shake it and just dance. And it was great for me as well. So anyway, what kept me going in Darwin was the sun. The sunrise, the sunshine, the sunset. That was my form of therapy. Life went on, and one day I went to sleep, and I woke up, and it was like that. So, being on maternity leave, I thought, okay, I'm a mom now, everything to the side. But I got too bored, I quickly get bored. And I got bored, and I thought, okay, I need something to do. And I thought, okay, great, I'm African, I came here, and I was very culturally confused in terms of the African sense of beauty and the Australian sense of beauty. So I decided to advertise for an audition for Miss Africa Darwin. All I wanted to do was to change somebody's life the same way somebody had changed my life. I advertised and was hoping for just one person. I got 17. And I'm like, great, let's do this. And we went through a series of workshops, which were confidence building workshops with these young girls. And they moved from being those little smiles, quite reserved, and that was the day of Miss Africa Darwin. And Miss Africa Darwin was a big success. Gets me a bit emotional, sorry. It was a big success, and we got invited to Government House. And knowing the life that I'd grown up, I never thought that somebody believing in me would encourage me to believe in somebody. And some of the stories that these girls shared, and some of the things that they've managed to fight, and they always say, hey, from the confidence I gathered from Miss Africa Darwin, look at what I'm doing. And that makes me the happiest person alive. So Miss Africa Darwin is to the side, and I hope to be, I'll be launching my own business at the end of September. Thank you very much. My life says I was inspired by the past, and I'm called to shape the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is David.